monkeys.
In a world where superpowers known as quirks were prevalent in society, there were many people out there who sought after power to protect, but some who sought out the strength to maintain their wants and desires. It seemed as if the world has become its own animal kingdom. Those who had powerful quirks could either protect or get what they want without fail. Some, on the other hand, stuck to their guns and bared the heart of a wolf and believed that protecting the pack was more important than anything in this world. Azuku Midoriya personified that to its core. With a quirk by the name of Alpha Wolf, Azuku became the greatest hero while being known for having a true spirit of a wolf itself. He wasn't always the greatest hero though. It all began at birth. Azuku was born to his mother Inko Midoriya, and from a very small age, Azuku began showing very odd tendencies, like chasing after birds and being highly overprotective. As well as his younger years, he moved on all 4 limbs. With these tendencies, at the age of 4, he grew wolf-like ears and he was taken to the doctors. Azuku was told he had a wolf quirk, but it was very different than one the doctors ever saw in the past. It seems it's known as Alpha Wolf. The quirk doctor then explained that this quirk is far beyond any regular wolf quirk. If he pushes through every bit of adversity, he would basically become insanely powerful. But for now, he will gain the strength of a wolf and have the ability to basically change into one if he so chooses. Wow, that's pretty cool, Mom. I'm gonna be super strong. I will train super hard too. Yes, honey. I know you will be a great hero. The two of them leave, and the next day Azuku arrives at school with answers to why he has wolf-like ears. He tells everyone, but more importantly, he tells his best friend Kachan that he has his quirk, and it's so cool. But they all look at him and begin laughing, saying that being a wolf isn't a quirk, he's basically just an animal. Azuku for years kept getting bullied by his classmates, and he didn't have any friends at all. One day when he was 9 years old though, it truly showed him that being bullied for having a quirk like his and being deemed weak was far from the actual truth. Both Inko and Azuku were walking to the store, and Inko got jumped by multiple muggers. One swatted Azuku away, and they started beating up Azuku's mother, trying to take all her belongings. What these muggers didn't know is that Azuku's true power was finally going to show. In a fit of rage, Azuku transformed into his wolf state, but he had glowing red eyes and he began to grow immensely. He jumped on the muggers, knocking all 3 of them out and leaving them basically half dead. Azuku grabbed his mother and ran off to the hospital with her on his back until he passed out at the front door of the hospital. And before anyone could notice, he actually transformed back into his human form. But obviously, really not on purpose. He just was out of stamina at that point. They both were taken into the hospital, but doctors noticed that Azuku didn't actually need much medical attention. So they rushed Inko to the emergency room before anything else could basically be done. Azuku wakes up soon after and asks to check in with his mother, but the doctors didn't let him until a couple more hours had passed. And then he runs into her room. Mom, are you okay? Oh, yes, thanks to you, honey. But I didn't do anything. A hero must have. No, Azuku, you saved me. Promise me, you'll train yourself and use that power to protect the ones you love. I promise, I will, Mom. The doctor then comes in telling Inko that she will live, but it seems that she won't be able to walk ever again. Azuku is sad, thinking that he should have done more, but Inko tells him that as long as he promises to be a strong hero, that is all that matters to her. I will, Mom, I promise. After the tragic incident, it began getting very hard for Azuku and Inko to live how they once did. But luckily, his father, who was overseas, provided them with enough money for them to live on, but Azuku had to grow up very quickly to help his mother out. And that meant like doing anything around the house, like chores and making food and tons of stuff, basically taking the role of the mother for himself. But he knew that he had one goal in mind, and that was to be the best hero possible. The beatings from his bullies continued on, but now he didn't care. He felt that every time he was getting beat down, he would gain even more strength. So he did his best to keep a smile on his face and push forward, because he knew that when he was sad, his mother would be sad, and all he cared about was his mother's happiness. During the last year of middle school, they actually got a brand new student, and this occurring changed a lot for Azuku, but maybe not in a good way. Initially, at least. This girl was like him. She transferred to this school and she had a very similar quirk to his. She had wolf ears as well, and her name was Luna Fuji. But I'd rather just be called Luna. The class pauses for a second and begins laughing. Deku, look, that girl has wolf ears like you. Now you have a friend, you loser. Deku just smiles and waves toward her. Feel free to sit next to Midoriya. She listens and he introduces himself. Azuku Midoriya, nice to meet you. She agrees, but is confused why he didn't even react to these people treating him as if he's less than them. Throughout the year, Luna watched as Azuku was bullied, but he would always just get back up, smile, wave to her, and leave home. Until one day toward the end of the year, where everyone finally saw Azuku's true protective nature. He was making his way out of the school until he heard a scream. He runs over to see Luna getting bullied and pushed around. Come on, you stupid dog. Fight back. 3 students from their school begin beating her up. But right when they begin, something appears, smashing all 3 of them into the ground in an instant. Azuku looks over their unconscious bodies with red eyes, and Luna looks in shock as her eyes flicker a murky white. But Azuku doesn't even notice this, and his eyes change back to green once again. Hey, are you okay? He helps her up and she asks how he did that. Oh, it's nothing crazy, just knocked them out. Well, as long as you're fine, I'll be going. Azuku begins to walk away. You're him, aren't you? Azuku turns. What are you talking about? The wolf that showed up and saved that woman. That's you. Azuku's expression goes from happy to serious. How do you know about that? She explains that that is the real reason she's here. To see if the rumors were true that the wolf was a teen like her currently. That woman I saved was my mother. Look, let's keep this between us, okay? She nods and Azuku walks off. The rest of their classes go as usual, and the last day of school comes up, and the teacher goes on about them all wanting to be heroes and such. But once this day was over, Azuku left knowing that this was now his chance to become a hero, and these next 10 months were going to be the most grueling of his life. He goes to leave out the gates, but Luna stops him. She runs up to him, telling him that she wants to train with him. You sure about that? It's going to be pretty difficult. Yes, I am. I know I can do it, and I want to be as strong as you. Azuku then sighs. I can't do it then. Azuku walks away and she follows him and continues asking why, but he gives no answer. She begins stalking him and watching his workouts and everything he does, and she approaches him asking over and over again for him to train her as well. "I told you, I can't train you." She screams, saying that she wants a reason. In a fit of rage, her eyes go white once again, and she attacks Azuku with sharp claws, but she is still in her human state. He's surprised, but he still easily dodges and beats her without even really breaking a sweat. "Look, Luna, I care about you, so you need to go before you hurt yourself. You can train with anyone else." Azuku begins to leave, but Luna stands back up once again, barely actually being able to stand up. "No, I will show you that you should train me. I will surpass even your strength if I have to." Azuku turns with a genuine smile on his face once again. "Okay, I'll train you." She calms down and is just completely confused. "You told me weeks ago that you wanted to be as strong as me. As a wolf, you should always chase after strength that is beyond the alpha, not equal to one." Her eyes grow wide at the response, and Azuku asks what her quirk is. "Oh, my quirk, it's Lunar Wolf, but they didn't tell me much about it." "I see. Well, let's begin." For the next 9 months, they both train together and sharpen their skills in their non-wolf form and also their wolf forms. Luna also learned more and more about her lunar wolf quirk, but most of it involved being in wolf form at night, so she didn't get too much practice with the power. For the last month, they both went back to Zuku's house for studying, and Inko finally met Luna, obviously being happy to see that her son got a girlfriend, but they both say that they're just friends. Before they knew it, it was time for the UA entrance exam. They both head over and are spotted by someone with a very loud voice. "What the hell are you two mutts doing here? This is for real heroes in training." They both ignore him and just continue walking into the exam site. Unfortunately though, Azuku has to sit next to Bakugo, so it isn't the last he hears of the Pomeranian. "Hello little listeners, welcome to the UA entrance exam, and now I will have everyone split up based on their number on their card and begin the written exam." All the students listen and head off. Azuku actually does decent on this test, being that he is pretty smart, but he isn't a genius by any means. After the test, President Mike then begins to introduce the practical exam. "There will be robots in this exam, 1, 2, and 3-point robots, but..." He is then cut off by a young boy with blue hair, and he says that he missed a robot, and that this isn't very professional. He turns to Azuku saying that if he is going to be fidgeting around like crazy, then he should just go somewhere outside. Azuku, with a smile on his face, looks at the boy. "Okay, for one, I'm fidgeting because I am part wolf, and I can't help it. Also, if you had your ears focused more on President Mike, you would also know he was going to explain the last robot." The blue-haired boy was about to argue, but President Mike says that the kid is right, and he begins explaining that there is a 0-point robot, but to basically just avoid it. The students then are separated into different groups away from their classmates and are sent off to a certain gate. Azuku patiently waits until the gates swing open, and he transforms into his wolf form, sprinting out. "Hey, he's cheating!" "No, he isn't. There's no countdowns in a real battle." All the students then run out, but Azuku already has a head start. His wolf form is very strong at this point. He is able to easily destroy the point robots with only his regular wolf form. He continues this and doesn't even think about actually how many points he has. He smashes one more robot until he senses something must be off. Soon after, the ground begins to shake like crazy. Azuku looks to see a giant robot coming out of the building. He begins to leave, but then hears a girl scream. Hearing this, his overprotective instincts flare, and his eyes glow red once again, and he begins to grow. but this time he grows far bigger than he ever has. Nowhere near the size of the 0-pointer, but still a massive wolf. He jumps at the robot, pushing it over, and begins clawing at it, eventually destroying the robot's wiring. He runs over, pushing the robot off the girl. She begins to freak out though, saying that he's a monster and to not hurt her. He changes back into his human form. Hey, calm down, She keeps on screaming, so he just gives up and leaves, thinking that these people may not be bullying him, but they sure are dumb. He basically then meets up with Luna and asks how she did, and she says she feels that she did pretty good, but now they just have to wait. After some time, they both get their letters, and Luna runs over to Azuku's house for them, basically so they could both open the letters together. They do so, and All Might appears. I am here talking to a hologram. He tells Luna that she got 3rd place in the entrance exam, and then he tells Azuku that he got 1st because of his massive 100 rescue points on top of his already 140 robot points. Also, I'm sorry about the girl, young Midoriya, but no matter the response, heroics are still heroics, and I know you have the markings of a great hero. Both Luna and Azuku look at each other with a massive smile, and they both hug, and as this happens, Inko enters the room. Hey, Azuku. Oh, I see what's going on. I'll leave you too. Inko leaves, but they both just say that they were happy about getting into UA. But she doesn't listen. About a week later, the first day of UA occurs, and Azuku walks toward the door and stares at it. The first step to being a hero is right now. Azuku walks in with a massive smile on his face, and he sees Bakugo. He sighs and just walks to his seat, ignoring everything that is happening. He sits down and waits for Luna, and as she enters the class, she runs over, sitting next to him, but Bakugo notices her. What the hell are you two doing here? You both got in? Both of you don't deserve to be here. You're just some mutts. Yeah, and you're a Pomeranian, Bakugo. So? Bakugo is pissed and charges at Azuku, trying to blast him, but Aizawa grabs him with his scarf. Sit down, and if you do that again, I will expel you. Bakugo scoffs and sits down. Listen, you rejects. I'm your homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa. For the next 3 years, I will be teaching you, or whatever you want to call it. Now leave and meet me at the training grounds. A girl that Azuku recognizes asks about orientation, and Aizawa says that he just doesn't care. The class heads out and they meet Aizawa. Look, we are doing a Quirk assessment. If you fail to show me true effort, I will expel you all. Everyone is shocked, but Azuku can tell that there is something he really isn't telling the class. Now let's have the first place throw this ball. Bakugo steps up. Obviously it's me. The rest of you are just some... Aizawa then cuts him off. Azuku Midoriya, catch. Azuku catches the ball and walks to the circle. Now throw using your Quirk. Azuku closes his eyes and activates basically his wolf powers in his human form, which aren't as strong as his alpha wolf form, but is still, it's good in terms of size management and mobility. So he decides to throw the ball with that form, because imagine trying to throw the ball with a wolf paw. Yeah. So he launches it, and Aizawa initially is pissed because he didn't turn into his wolf form. But then he looks to see that he threw it for 1.5k meters. Good job, but why didn't you transform? Oh, I did, but I used the minor version that allows me to stay in my human form. Easier to throw when you have hands. Aizawa nods, understanding, and as Azuku goes to walk back, Bakugo charges at him, pissed. You damn mutt, how did you get that strong? Azuku sees this and transforms and stomps Bakugo into the ground. Aizawa just sighs and asks someone to call Recovery Girl, but a lot of the class begins to freak out. saying that Midoriya is a monster. Luna hears this, jumping out and transforming, but her form is more of like an elegant type of wolf, so they're not really afraid of her. She calls the people who call him a monster a coward, because the real monster is the one who will charge at someone with the intention to hurt another. Azuku and her turn back into their human forms. Sorry about that, Aizawa sensei, but he did attack me. No, it's fine, problem child. For the rest of you who think he's a monster, you're expelled. But for the ones who said nothing, you're fine. Class dismissed. The class is shocked, and Aizawa takes Uraraka, Mina, Kaminari, Mineta, and Ida to the office. The rest of the class tries to blame Midoriya, but he refuses to even listen, and he walks away, leaving Bakugo on the ground. Luna runs after him. Wait, Azuku! Luna, do you really think this is a good idea, you being around me? They didn't even look at you like a monster. Your wolf form is graceful. I'm just some brute to them. Luna argues that he is the nicest person she has ever met, and he helped her get this strong, and she would be nothing at this point without him. Azuku is shocked at what she just said to him, and apologizes for, well, what he said. She forgives him, and they both head home. The next day, Aizawa walks into class with the 5 students that he expelled the other day. Okay, listen up. The 5 students that were expelled are back. I did that for a reason, to show you and them that there is far more to being a hero than any of you truly realize. What they did, and maybe even some of you did, was profiling someone based on the way they look. This is what you need to get out of your head. If you do this with other heroes in training, then what will you do on the streets? Aizawa says this, and basically says that the teacher for today will be actually working on this with them. All Might then busts through the door. I am here, and who is ready for some hero identification training? All Might explains that they will work together in groups of 5 to figure out who the killer was in a certain incident, with some other things that will be thrown at them. Now, get on your hero suits, future heroes, and let's begin training. Class 1A gets on their hero suits and they head out to Ground Gamma. When they arrive, All Might explains the scenario. He tells them that there was a killing and they need to figure out who it is based on evidence and the way they are acting. Also, the other students will be playing the roles of the innocent and the villain or villains. Now, the first team is Luna, Midoriya, Ida, Momo, and Asui. All Might tells them to wait as he gets the others set up, and when they are ready, he will call them. After some time, they are all called over, and All Might tells them to begin. But when everyone starts talking, Azuku decides to not help, and stays by All Might. Young Midoriya, shouldn't you be helping your team? All Might, I already know who the villain is. All Might is confused, and tells him to whisper the answer. Azuku does so, and All Might confirms it's correct, and asks how he came to that conclusion so quickly. It's part of my quirk. I can basically sense intent, nervousness, emotion in general, like stuff like that. In training exercises, it's a little bit harder, but with really bad people, it's very easy. All Might nods and is impressed, as Luna runs over asking what Azuku is doing. Oh, I already know who it is, but you should as well, Luna. Focus. Use the training I put you through and focus your senses. I'm going to stay out of this one because it would be, well, not very beneficial. Luna nods and enters her wolf form while staying in the human state, so it's more of like a half and half, and begins trying to sense everything around her. The group talks about who they think it is, and they actually narrow it down to 3 people. Luna keeps looking around, realizing that there's actually 2 villains amongst everyone. She approaches one of the 3, who is Kaminari, and says that he is one of them. The group is confused and asks what does she mean by one of them. and the girl, who was Mina, behind the counter tries to make her way out, but Luna grabs her. She is the second one. All Might and Azuku smile, and All Might tells them that was a job well done, and that Luna spotted something that even someone who is normally seen to be innocent in a situation like this could be a part of the prime suspects.
I hope this helps you all realize that realizing the true situation is very important. I heard what happened yesterday, and I hope all of you can do better.
The people who got in trouble the day prior apologize and promise to do better. All Might pats Azuku on the head, telling him not to worry and that actions do speak louder than anything in this society. Azuku nods and runs over to the group. That was pretty impressive, you four. They thank him, and Ida and Mina apologize for their reaction to him yesterday. It's okay, don't worry about it. He smiles and the group heads back. Multiple other groups go, having some good and some bad experiences, but overall they all accomplish what they set out to do in their training session. They all head home, and the next day comes around, and Aizawa announces what they will be doing.
Job well done yesterday, but now for more training. Today we will be going to the USJ. Everyone meet me outside.
The class heads out, and they all get on a bus and begin talking about their quirks, trying to figure out actually who the strongest is. Some argue for Azuku and others for Shoto, but Azuku chimes in as well. Honestly, Todoroki's quirk is extremely powerful for many situations, so I definitely think his quirk is stronger than mine. But I guess it's really how you use it, right? Some people ask what he means by that, and Luna says that Azuku has much more control over his quirk than Todoroki does, so raw strength doesn't really matter very much. Azuku nods, and Todoroki, being the, edgelord he is, just scoffs at the remark. They all arrive at the USJ and then head in. They are greeted by Pro Hero 13, but Azuku begins sensing something. Aizawa, something is coming. Aizawa, knowing Azuku's quirk and how good he is with it based on the success in the hero training the day before, he tells someone to contact UA, but it actually doesn't work. Their communications are completely cut off. Ida is sent out to run and get help, and as he leaves, a giant portal shows up in the middle of the USJ, and a man with hands all over him comes out with a hulking figure behind him. Now, where is All Might?
It seems that he isn't here, young master.
Fine. Go have some fun until he arrives. Aizawa jumps down towards the villains and begins defeating them. 13 tells them all to stay where they are, but when she looks, Azuku and Luna are already gone. Aizawa is about to be hit, but Azuku kicks the villain in the face, knocking him out instantly.
What are you two doing? Let me handle this.
This makes it quicker. Plus, I'll never let someone of the pack fight alone. Luna nods and Aizawa just smiles.
Just keep up, you two.
The three of them quickly defeat all the villains, and Shigaraki stands there with a small smirk. Now that is impressive. That one Kurogiri. Who is he?
I believe that is Azuku Midoriya. He is currently top of their class.
Makes sense. Now he is interesting. Nomu, go see what the kid can do. The Nomu then walks over, and Aizawa watches as it ignores him, walking by. Luna, you might want to move. The Nomu throws a punch at Azuku, but he blocks it, still taking a ton of damage though. Azuku begins to grow and turns into a giant wolf.
Now let's see what you got.
Azuku charges at the Nomu, clawing at it, pinning it down, but it seems to not be able to take any damage. As he grows more frustrated, a red aura slowly begins to appear, and he actually starts doing sustainable damage.
What is happening to him?
Aizawa looks on, extremely confused. Azuku throws the Nomu and does this blood-curdling howl. This Azuku wasn't the same. He was now deep into his pack mentality, his wolf mentality. No, his alpha wolf mentality. The howl was so great that Luna even changed into her lunar wolf form and walked over to Azuku right beside him. Now that is some Quirk. Screw All Might. This kid. Master needs to know about him. Kirogiri, leave the Nomu. Get us out of here.
As you wish, young master.
The other two villains disappear, and as this happens, tons of wolves come out of various parts of the USJ, seemingly like Azuku summoned them. Azuku and Luna and all of these other wolves rip the Nomu to shreds. Azuku howls once again, and the wolves disappear, and Luna and him pass out. Everyone stares in complete awe at what just occurred, and all the pro heroes and All Might enter, seeing the carnage. Luna and Azuku are taken to recovery girls, and they're out for at least 2 days, but they finally wake up. Huh? Where am I? Azuku sits up, and recovery girl sees that he's up and tells him that, well, he's been in her, office because of the USJ fight. Oh, thank you, recovery girl. She tells him that it's no problem, but to not be so reckless next time. Soon after, Luna runs in, asking what even happened. Azuku looks at his hands. It must have had something to do with the alpha part of my quirk. But I think it could have gone even further if we didn't pass out. What do you mean? I could feel this power, but I don't know what it was. It felt like something far beyond anything I've ever felt in any training or even then. I'm sorry, Luna. I didn't mean to, control you. Luna walks up to him saying that it's fine, and maybe that was for the best. Maybe he couldn't have taken on that Nomu by himself. Recovery girl then tells them both that if they're fine, then they're free to go. They both agree and leave, but Aizawa quickly stops them outside.
Problem child, if you don't mind, can you explain what happened at the USJ?
Azuku explains basically what he felt and what his quirk is, and it seems to have taken that next step, exactly what the doctor was talking about all those years ago.
Interesting. I guess you need more training. Luckily, that's why you are here.
Aizawa tells them both to head home, and he leaves, saying that they basically start back tomorrow and to be ready for the UA Sports Festival. They do as they are told, and the next day their class is sent out to the stadium, getting introduced by their very own Midnight. She welcomes everyone, and she asks for the number 1 student in the entrance exam to approach. Azuku does so, and his ears perk up as everyone awes about how cute he looks. I promise that all of us will put on an amazing performance, and I pledge to do my best. The crowd cheers for him, and he walks back to his class, and Luna looks kinda mad. Midnight then begins to announce the event. She spins the wheel, and it lands on something interesting. The event is the crown game. The students and the audience, they're pretty confused. They don't actually know what this is. Midnight then explains that everyone has 5 minutes in a massive battle royale to basically wear the crown just one time, which means if you play nice, everyone could wear it, but if you don't, only one person could. Now that is interesting. Luna asks why, and Azuku explains that now they will basically get to see who actually is going to take this seriously, because if you want to win, you don't let anybody else touch that crown. All the class go to the stage, which Cementos actually makes bigger, because normally if this game was played, it would be, at a smaller scale. So he makes the stage bigger to help with the capacity issue, but you could only grow a stage so much. The crown is then thrown into the middle of the arena, and the mosh pit of people try to grab it and put it on, but nobody actually can, popping the crown up, and Azuku jumps up, putting it on his head. Everyone charges at him, but as they do this, he throws it to Luna, and she puts it on. The crowd in unison ask a question. Are they really playing a game of keep away? Azuku and Luna do this, but Bakugo, with his explosion quirk, obviously is able to grab it and he puts it on. But instead of keeping it, he smirks and throws it back to Azuku. Luna is surprised because, obviously Azuku and Bakugo's past disagreements and bullying, but Azuku expected this, knowing that Bakugo knew that the less people there were, that makes it, easier to win. This continues until Shoto gets frustrated, freezing everyone, making it obviously easier for him to grab onto the crown. But at the end of the game, that is it. Bakugo, Luna, Azuku, and Shoto. Nobody else. And frankly, Bakugo, Luna, and Azuku are just too fast to let anyone even touch the crown. Ida, you could argue is fast enough, but the crowded area definitely doesn't help. And only 4 people make it on to the next round. And obviously that crowded area definitely played a factor, and now everyone realizes why it would be better if that game was played in later rounds. Midnight then announces that since there's only 4 people left, they need to do one-on-one battles. And the matches of, the losers will face off to determine the 3rd place of the festival. The matches are announced on the intercom by Present Mike. The first match will be Azuku Midoriya versus Katsuki Bakugo. The crowd cheers both Azuku and Bakugo as they walk up, but they stare at each other and smirk. They both walk up to the stage. Don't think I'm gonna go easy on you, nerd. Yeah, don't worry. I'm not thinking it, because I only give thought to actual challenges. Azuku smirks and Bakugo is visibly pissed at the remark. Get ready to die. Now begin in 3, 2, 1, go! Azuku stays in his human state and Bakugo comes charging in. He begins blasting around Azuku, knowing that the fight needs to stay at his range. Azuku notices what he's trying to do and forces the action, taking a hit from his explosion but grabbing his arm, slamming him to the ground. But before he can actually hit the ground though, Bakugo blasts Azuku in the face. Midoriya staggers back and looks toward Bakugo with a burn mark covering his face. You messed up now. Azuku transforms into his wolf state, but this time it's different. He's actually standing on 2 legs. He charges in, kicking Bakugo, as if he's in some werewolf state, and his speed is insane. And Bakugo is confused, thinking to himself, how is he so nimble in that state? What he remembers is that his normal wolf form is a little bit more clunky. Well, what Bakugo didn't know is that Azuku has been basically working on this for a while. In terms of power, it is weaker than his normal wolf form, but in terms of mobility and combat in 1v1 battles, it's better. Azuku begins beating on Bakugo pretty badly, with insane speed and combat mobility, but when he pushes him to the edge, Midoriya swings, punching Bakugo in the gut, and basically trying to knock him out. But with all the willpower left, Bakugo swallows his pride and flips him and blasts him out of bounds. Bakugo is deemed the winner, and Azuku, he's pretty unscathed, being that his resistance to a lot of things are pretty high. He did get bullied by Bakugo and blasted all the time, right? And his quirk, wolves in general aren't fragile, basically. Wow, Bakugo. This is definitely unexpected. For you to make the one call to ring me out, that's interesting. Bakugo scoffs and is pretty mad that he had to win like that, and even deep down he knows that he's still kind of outclassed in terms of an actual 1v1 against Azuku. The next fight is announced and it's Todoroki and Luna, so they both head out. Todoroki talks about it's not gonna be easy, and he's not going easy on her, and she just smiles and transforms as the fight begins. No way. Did she really? What everyone else didn't realize is that Luna was actually transformed into her lunar wolf form. Azuku stands there shocked, but excited at the same time to see his friend surpass what she believed to be her own limits. He cheers her on, and basically as she begins to use one of her powers. As a lunar wolf, she can basically make the opponent see things that aren't actually there, even see their worst fears if she so chooses. To the audience, Todoroki just freezes, and Luna kicks him out of the stage. Azuku has the biggest smile on his face as she looks towards him with a thumbs up and a celebration. The next fight is announced to be Todoroki versus Midoriya, but it is said that Todoroki will basically not be well enough to compete, so he had to forfeit. The final battle for the winner of the festival will be Bakugo versus Luna. Before they start, they are given 10 minutes for a break, and Azuku runs down to talk to Luna. Hey, that was amazing. You went into that form without it even being nighttime. She thanks him for his excitement, but asks why he didn't just finish the fight with Bakugo, and that she knows he could have won. Azuku kinda chuckles at the response. I didn't need to win, Luna. I've proved enough to myself. She starts punching him lightly, saying that he really took this as a training session. Yeah, sorry, but you go out and win. Show everyone how strong you are. Azuku starts walking away, and she stops him. No, I'm gonna show myself how strong I am. She smiles, and Azuku smiles back, and she walks up to the stands to the fight. Soon after, the fight begins. Luna transforms and Bakugo charges forward, but she's able to dodge the attack, and she begins to show Bakugo basically black smoke surrounding him. But the audience obviously can't see this. It's just him. And Azuku knows exactly what's happening. What the hell is happening? Bakugo, says in complete confusion. Bakugo then gets kicked, and then hit again, and then again. He can't react and has no clue where he is until the smoke clears and he sees he's outside the stage. Luna is the winner! She celebrates, and Azuku runs down to celebrate with her as well, and Bakugo just walks by, and in his own little way he sorta calls it a good fight. All Might then hands out all the medals to the contestants, and the UA Sports Festival is officially over. The students then all leave, and the next day Azuku arrives at school, and Aizawa reveals that they will begin internships.
Okay, listen up. Great job yesterday, but back to business. You all will be given offers to attend an internship, so I will pass out papers of all those. Aizawa begins handing out all the papers, and then tells the class that they must choose who they will go intern with by the end of the day. The normal day concludes, and Azuku and Luna talk about where they want to go, and Luna says that she will go with Mirko. That's a great choice. I have her too, but I kinda want to go with Gang Orca. Luna agrees and says that that a top hero like him will definitely be able to teach him a lot. Azuku, obviously agrees with what Luna just said, and they head home for the day. The next day, everyone meets up and waits for their train. If anything happens, let me know. Just be safe, okay? Luna thanks him, but teases him for being so worried all the time. They both leave, and Azuku heads to Gang Orca's agency. When Azuku arrives, he is actually greeted by Gang Orca himself. Midoriya, welcome. I'm glad you came to my agency, and I'm super excited to be working with you. Thank you, Gang Orca. That means a lot. Gang Orca brings him in and shows him around, and tells him that for the first day they will be doing some training, and the rest will involve just patrolling. Azuku says that it sounds good to him, and asks when the training begins.
He tells him right now, and they both head outside, and there's a large area awaiting for them.
Let's see what you got, Midoriya. Do not hold back at all.
Azuku nods and begins to transform, but he doesn't just turn into his wolf form. He turns into his apex predator wolf form. But since he was not emotionally provoked, he can control this form pretty well. Azuku charges at Gang Orca, kicking him to the ground. But while on the ground, Gang Orca grabs Azuku's snout and flips him on his back. He gets back up and Azuku begins to howl.
It seems like you're getting a little fired up.
Azuku then speaks.
Not fired up, just getting serious.
Gang Orca then realizes that tons of red shadow wolves begin to appear around him. They all attack Gang Orca and he's able to fend them all off, eventually landing a sonic blast on Azuku. This staggers him back, but he still is ready to continue, but Gang Orca says that that's enough.
Good job, Midoriya. Now let's bring you in. I want to show you some of the agency's villain takedown policies and protocols and strategies.
For the rest of the day, Azuku studies up and learns new things, and the second day came around, and they finally started a patrol.
You see, you won't find much out here at this time, but interacting with the people out here is just as important.
As Gang Orca says this, 3 girls walk up and begin freaking out, saying that they are such big fans. Gang Orca is about to thank them, but then they all hug Azuku and take pictures with him and say that his performance at the sports festival was awesome, and they thank them and leave. Azuku kind of laughs at this, saying that his transformed state is what most people are afraid of, but luckily the small wolf ears kind of help him out with the people being more comfortable around him. Gang Orca actually agrees and tells Azuku that he does seem very likable. Thanks, I appreciate that. The patrol continues until they hear screams in the distance. Gang Orca is actually pretty surprised by this, but he tells Azuku just to help evacuate everyone just in case. Azuku runs around picking up people and getting them out of harm's way, and is forced to turn into his werewolf form and basically help more people at greater speeds. Until he saw rubble about to fall on a little child, and he runs over covering the child, getting pelted himself by the rocks. Ah, a monster! The kid runs away, and Azuku just sighs and continues evacuating the people. He finishes and looks over and sees that Gang Orca is actually facing down a Nomu. Gang Orca seems to be getting pushed back and also is struggling, but Azuku refuses to just watch. A loud howl could be heard from behind Gang Orca, and he slightly turns to see Azuku in his alpha wolf state. Red shadow wolves begin appearing, but Azuku howls once again, and they grow slightly in size. Azuku's eyes grow red, and his voice goes way deeper than ever before.
Now you die.
Wolves swarm the Nomu, and Gang Orca follows it up as well. With a combined effort, they defeat the Nomu with nothing left. Gang Orca turns.
I thought you weren't holding back when we were fighting, kid.
Azuku transforms back into his normal state. Yeah, I thought I wasn't either. After saying this, he passes out and Gang Orca takes him back to the agency. Azuku's out for a while, for about a day and a half, but when he wakes up, he hears something very unsettling.
Yeah, kid, we are sending you back to UA. Something happened to one of the students.
Azuku is shocked, but leaves at the request of Gang Orca, and the next day when they have class, Aizawa explains.
I know most of you are wondering why the internships were cut short, but unfortunately one of your classmates was killed by the hero killer.
The class just listens and frankly has no clue what to say. Aizawa tells them that this is the time for them all to step up, for them all to show what they truly have. Yes, this may be a sad time, but moping is not what Ida would have wanted.
Now it's time for all of you to be proper pro heroes. I've decided to cancel your exams, but we'll be doing a different type of training.
They all ask what he means by that.
You all will be going to a secluded island, and this will be your test. You will run an agency on your own, and your success determines if you will stay in UA. I've decided that I've been too lenient, and there is a lot more for you all to learn.
Everyone agrees and says that they are ready for the challenge.
Good. Now let's see what type of heroes you are. Class 1A.
Class 1A then got permission to go on a week-long trip to run their own agency. They basically had no guarantee that there would be villains, and there was no guarantee that they would be safe. Before they left, Aizawa told the class that they would be guided to the agency that they would be running, and they needed to work it out themselves. Based on reviews of people that live there and other heroes that were monitoring without being seen, they will know if they pass the test. What the class didn't know was what they were going to miss in Japan. All they knew was that this was a way to prove they were ready to be heroes. And rumor has it that if they were able to basically have success, they would be given their provisional hero license. So the class was sent off to a seemingly remote island. When they arrived, everyone gathered, and everyone entered the agency. And a secretary greeted them, saying that she would help with phone calls and greeting people into the agency, but that is about it, and they had to come up with a plan of their own. So they did just that. Momo, who is now the class president, began giving jobs to the class. Her job with Kaminari was a pseudo support team, and other people like Mina and people with nice friendly voices would answer phone calls. The rest were going to be broken off into pairs of 2, and they would be placed in certain areas of the island to help citizens and other people who truly needed it. Luna and Azuku were paired up, and they were sent to a campground on the island, where there were the only mountains on the island were at. They both headed over, and they saw many tents and other RV-like vehicles. When they arrived, they were greeted by the locals, and they asked if they were a couple coming out basically to camp, in which both of them, being very embarrassed, responded that they were heroes of the agency for the next week or so, and they were sent out here.
Oh wow, I assume both of you have some sort of wolf quirk, right?
Yeah, actually we do, but don't worry about us. We won't be breathing down your necks or anything like that. We are just here to make sure everything is safe and sound. The man's wife actually walks out hearing this and tells them that she is so glad to hear that they are there, because she had heard of legend of the killer coyote that roams the island this time of year. Her husband cuts her off though, saying that is just a legend and they have nothing to worry about. Don't worry. Even if this is true, me and Luna are here to protect you. They both nod and then they go about their business. Luna eventually decides that she is going to basically head into the central plaza and get 2 tents and other camping supplies and like first aid and stuff like that. That will basically allow them both to just stay there overnight and maybe for a couple days if need be. Azuku then thinks that's a fantastic idea. So while waiting for her to return, he walks around the camp, talking to people and just getting the lay of the land. Some time passes and finally the sun begins to set, but this wasn't good. But Azuku did not know this. The moon began to rise and a howl could be heard from deep in the mountains. Azuku told the people to share space with the others in the RVs and hide there until further notice. They listen all of them hide, and a giant coyote appears. So the legend was real. But you aren't just a coyote, am I right? The coyote begins changing and turns into a 18-year-old man.
Yeah, you are right.
But when I smelled your scent, I just knew I had to come see for myself who you were. Oh, why is that?
Because your blood will make me so much stronger.
The man transforms into his coyote form, and in response, Azuku transforms as well. Azuku doesn't go into his alpha state in hope to conserve energy, but he quickly realized that he was being overpowered. As a response to his need of power, he begins to grow. His eyes glow red, and once again his voice goes deep. He stares daggers into the coyote, but the coyote does not budge an inch. Their fight continues, and Azuku obviously has the advantage and begins to beat on the coyote, but obviously doesn't go into a further state, knowing that this should be enough. As this happens though, the people who were told to hide decide to try to help Azuku and bring out makeshift torches and stuff like that. But as the coyote sees this, he gets an amazing plan and transforms back into his human state. Help! Oh, please help me! Azuku, still in his alpha form, is confused and gets burned by the people that are there. He quickly detransforms, showing that he is the person who was looking over the camp initially. You people are real idiots. Now I get to have all of your blood. The man transforms and attacks at a civilian, but Azuku, just in time, transforms as well and takes the bite on the shoulder. Move out of the way, please. Azuku struggles to say this while losing blood. The people are shocked that even after their mistake, he saved them. They all burn the coyote until another howl is heard. Luna is now back, and she is in her lunar form. And not only that, it is basically peak moon. So her power is even stronger than it would have been in the sports festival. She stands by Azuku, and he stands up with her, with the citizens by their side. She traps him in his own fear, and Azuku knocks out the coyote with his brute strength. Out of exhaustion, Azuku transforms back into his normal state, and luckily Luna got first aid, but she also informed the agency that Azuku got hurt. But what they didn't know was a boy was in the background videotaping the whole thing. Azuku got patched up, and then some medical attention was brought to the camp. The campers pleaded for forgiveness, and Azuku tells them that all that matters is their safety and that he gets how his form can make people scared. The boy that nobody knew was actually recording, and they still didn't know, began talking. But that's not fair. You saved all of us with your girlfriend, and you would have been able to do it alone if we didn't try to step in. I promise that I will always make sure not to judge someone based on what they look like, only on the way their heart is. Azuku smiles, and the campers are shocked at the words from a kid, that he wasn't even maybe 10 years of age, and he was, well, a lot more rational than they were. They all bow and agree with the statement, and Azuku thanks them all. Some more days pass, and nothing too eventful happens. Some minor villains here and there show up, but minor villains are easy to handle. About 2 days before they were allowed to leave and be evaluated, a call then rang in from Aizawa. He told Momo to tell the others that a large-scale raid was going to happen soon, so they would be staying there for at least 2 extra days. She thanks him and tells the rest of the class what is occurring. Most of the students were pretty happy because frankly it's a breath of fresh air from normal school, but Azuku reminds them that this is still a trip that is meant to be a test, so stay focused. They all agree and do so. They continue their patrols and other activities, and that basically need to be done, and the last day of them being there actually arrives, and they hear from Aizawa that they are all good to go for the following day, and that heroes are coming to take their place. Azuku hears about this, but wonders what happened in Japan that forced them to stay there anyways. Azuku and Luna tell the people who live and visit in the mountains of the island that they will be leaving soon. They all decide to show their thanks by throwing a massive feast. So that night, Luna and Azuku eat with the people at the campgrounds and have a relaxing day, especially compared to their first night. The next day, everyone says their goodbyes, and even the little kid tells Azuku that he is rooting for him. Azuku thanks him, and Aizawa picks the whole class up in a UI specialized plane. While on the plane, Aizawa then begins explaining some things.
Congrats. You all passed the test. You actually exceeded my expectations. But don't get a big head now. Now that you have all passed the test, the Hero Commission is giving you all provisional hero licenses. So you all will be able to join an agency on a work study.
They all celebrate, but Aizawa tells them that he's not finished and to shut up.
In Japan, something occurred. A battle between All For One and All Might. All For One was captured, but All Might is now retired. We kept this news from you so that you can focus on this. The League got away, unfortunately, but now it's not the time for all of you. Now is all time for all of you to take that next step, and you already have offers for work studies.
They all check their phones, and a list of places actually show up, depending on the offers everyone received. Azuku sees that Gang Orca, Ryukyu, and many others actually offered him, but or a spot at a work study, but he has a good idea of where he wants to go. He begins to get excited until his excitement was interrupted by a video. There was a video going viral on the internet and everyone got notified about it. It was him saving those campers and even showed the speech that the boy gave. His whole class was actually shocked, and even Aizawa was shocked as well at what occurred, and they began asking him a bunch of questions like why didn't he tell them about all this stuff that happened. And he just tells them that he didn't know that the kid was recording and that he didn't really think that those other details even mattered. The class began congratulating him and told him that he's like famous now. Aizawa slightly smirks and tells Azuku that, like he said, being a good hero is all that matters. And that is proof of it right there. Azuku nods and they all land back in Japan hours later. When they all land, tons of press swarm them all to talk to Azuku, but security gets them all away, of course. Azuku's phone begins blowing up again, but this time it's all these work study requests, but he doesn't really care about all that, because he already decided to stay loyal to Gang Orca, someone who's definitely helped him in the past. After a day of rest, Aizawa told the class that it is now time to choose their work study, and they will also be moving into dorms, and they already actually spoke to the parents of everyone. Azuku, who has already accepted Gang Orca's request, is actually allowed to head over to his agency. He is greeted with open arms, and Gang Orca is actually happy that Fame didn't change his mind about coming to his agency. Come on, I would never not be loyal to you. Gang Orca pats him on the head and smiles.
Good to hear that, kid.
Azuku heads into the agency, and Gang Orca explains that nothing too much has been going on, so they will basically go on their regular patrols. So, that's what they begin doing. Azuku goes on patrols with and without Gang Orca over the next 2 days, until one day, at the agency, alarms begin to blare like crazy. Gang Orca yells for everyone to get into their positions, and he asks the support unit what is going on. Buildings all around us, they're getting torn to shreds. A support hero says this. As the support hero says this, part of their building begins to break apart. Everyone out of the building! Azuku and Gang Orca sprint out to see the man who is destroying the area around them. Finally! Some damn heroes! And look, it's the little mutt! I know who you are. The man introduces himself as Dolos. Azuku and Gang Orca ask what he wants, but the man's face goes blank. I only want one thing, and that one thing is destruction. Dolos reaches out and the buildings around them begin to crumble. Midoriya, this isn't some normal Quirk. He has a strength enhancement drug active. Yeah, I can tell. His telekinesis is going crazy. Dolos screams, telling them to not ignore him, and that he will personally rip them all apart. The ground begins to shake, and Gang Orca and Azuku charge at him, and Azuku changes into his wolf form. They both try to attack, but are sent flying at the rubble. You think it's gonna be that easy? Nothing is that easy. Dolo begins to float, and Azuku exits the rubble by turning into his alpha form. When Azuku does this, he charges back in. Dolo holds him off with his telekinesis, and Gang Orca tries to basically capitalize off of the distraction. But as he does this, Dolos grabs him and basically just begins levitating him into the sky. Now watch as I murder your little agency friend. Pro hero or not, this drug makes me so much stronger. Azuku begins to get enraged and his eyes begin to boil a red color. A mist begins to ooze out of his body as it covers the area around him. He's metrically losing his mind at this point. The idea that he's about to send Gang Orca into space and try to kill him is making Azuku extremely pissed. Dolo even questions what the hell is he doing, and Azuku howls louder than anyone has heard before. Many wolves begin surrounding Dolo, but Dolo is still in the air, floating above them. But now he's losing focus. Wolves begin jumping off the roof, attacking Dolo, biting onto his arm, and dragging him back down to the ground. He drops Gang Orca for a second, and Azuku jumps up, basically making Gang Orca land on his back. Gang Orca thanks him for the help as they re-engage. Dolo shakes off the wolves, and they disappear into mist, and Azuku walks slowly toward him. He tries to use his telekinesis quirk on Azuku, but nothing works. It's like it's gone. What's happening? Dolo questions himself that maybe the drug is wearing off. Azuku, in a extremely deep voice, tells him that the drug isn't wearing off. His power just surpassed it. That he doesn't understand what he's gotten himself into. Azuku continues walking toward him as Dolo uses both hands, trying to force Azuku backwards. He stuns him slightly, but Azuku is in a far other realm in itself. He has unlocked something beyond just an alpha wolf. He is summoned that pack mentality that was unknown to him initially. He felt this burst of strength every so often in his fights, but what really would make it push over the edge is when he saw someone he cared about getting hurt. His fur, the once dark green and red misty eyes, begin changing. His fur becomes darker and darker, and red mist covers all over it as if he's about to ignite in flames. Azuku was far beyond just an alpha wolf now. He was on the verge of being a hellhound. Something that was built to kill. Built to basically end anything that stood in front of him. But as he was about to lose his smidge of sanity that he had left, he remembered. He remembered Gang Orca. He remembered Luna. He remembered the little boy that recorded him and told him that he could be, that he would be a hero, a great one. That he's not the monster everyone thinks he is. Remembering this, the aura, the red mist, and all the flames that were about to ignite begin to tone down. But they were still there. But everything was so much more controlled. It was so quiet in the city that you could hear a pin drop. Gang Orca stands in complete awe as his protege, someone that he's been trying to train, just unlocked something, but just right in front of him. Azuku is now far beyond his alpha wolf state. He is an alpha hellhound, but he hasn't lost his sanity. He hasn't sent his mind into the depths of hell. And his aura alone scares not only Dolos, but Gang Orca himself. He was so calm that you could feel the pressure. The pressure was so immense that Dolos began to just collapse. And he stares at Azuku, trying to use his telekinesis, but shaking in fear, grabbing buildings and trying to slam them into Azuku. But multiple wolves, packs of them, so many that it's so hard to count, basically block all the buildings from falling upon them. And Azuku walks up, and in one just glare, Dolos passes out. Azuku, in a more calm voice, that hellhound deep voice was gone, tells Gang Orca to call the police and get someone out here for him. Gang Orca agrees, and he calls the police to get this villain under control and arrested as soon as possible. Azuku then goes back to his normal state and begins questioning himself. That this state, he felt it so many times before. This hellhound, this state was supposed to be him letting go of his humanity, letting go of anything he ever believed in, but he controlled it. And he begins pulling with the idea, will he be able to control it again if the situation was different? But he can feel that over all this time, since the very beginning, when he first started training, that he was getting stronger. So much so that he felt like, as a pack leader, he could protect everyone. But he had to put those thoughts on hold. He had basically a city to try and help out, or a town to basically try and help out. So he does just that. He helps Gang Orca get the villain off the streets, sends him to the police station, and he tries his best to help clean up the city the best he can. During this, even citizens come out, noticing who Azuku is and saying that they all saw him on the internet. And he thanks them for basically being supportive, and multiple people begin to apologize, saying that they've seen him before and on patrols and other stuff, and they judged him without even thinking. But today he showed something insane. He showed that no matter the appearance, you could be as calm as some normal person. And he thanks them and says that that's the goal for himself, that he wants to not strike fear into the people that he's trying to save. They basically tell him that he's on a perfect path to do so, and can't wait to see how well he does in the future. So after helping for basically the whole day and trying to clean up the building's rubble and stuff like that, this project obviously will take months, but the initial help definitely did assist a bit for the civilians, until Gang Orca and Azuku had to head back into their agency. And the news began to turn on. It looks like there's a fight going on right now. It's one of the students of UA, part of the Big Three, fighting the gang renowned known as Overhaul. They both watch on as Mirio is able to defeat Overhaul as he strikes him down. And Azuku is pretty stunned by the power that Mirio shows. And Gang Orca tells him that they need to basically keep working and getting stronger. Azuku asks him what he means, and Gang Orca tells him that he obviously he personally wasn't ready for that fight, and Azuku was. And Azuku is just a student. So Gang Orca tells him that the next time they see each other, that he will make sure to be stronger than Azuku. Azuku kind of smiles and says that he believes him. And Gang Orca explains that if his predictions are correct, they're probably going to send him back to UA because of the incident. A couple more days pass, and that's exactly what happens. Azuku gets sent back to UA, and Aizawa begins basically explaining the reason for this stunt in terms of the work study. But he tells them that training doesn't stop there, and that it's time to train now even more. And what's the best way to do that? Have Class 1A go against Class 1B. I hope you're ready, because if you take them lightly, I'll expel you all. Aizawa then explains to the class that it's now time for the joint training arc, or the joint training. They announce all the matches when they arrive, and frankly, they actually all go exactly the same, except for two. It's now time for Luna's match, in which it will be Luna, Todoroki, Ojiro, Shoji versus Mudman, Tetsu, Pony, and Spiral. Obviously, this is a little different than in canon. Tenya Ida is not here. As all of y'all know, if you've been keeping up with the series, Tenya passed in the fight with the hero killer. So, Luna will actually be taking that place off the bat. So, that countdown is given, and their match begins. The four of them begin conversing at what they believe to be the best plan of action, and Luna begins trying to sense her surroundings. She asks them if they know exactly what quirks all of them have. Shoto brings up that Tetsu seems to have one very similar to Kirishima of their class. They also talk about how Pony must have something to do with her horns. Spiral, it must be some physical ability. And Mudman, well, they're not so sure. They can obviously hypothesize about it, but they're not 100% sure. Shoto basically brings up that they could close the distance, as in they are currently hearing Tetsu destroy the buildings around them and all these pipes, and Shoto can just wipe them all out and knock them all out with a huge ice attack. But Luna says that that's probably what they expect. See, but then Ojiro and Shoji been questioning if she really thinks that they are the ones to come up with such a brain-like plan. And she said after the past fights, that she wouldn't put it against them. So instead of just rushing in, Luna says that they should scout everything out. So that's what they do. Luna, using her senses, she scouts out everything and scouts out everyone. She tells them that the most biggest threat in something like this is the unknown. Azuku, while watching, reads her lips about what she just said, and a giant smile runs over his face, thinking that his good friend, well, she's come a long way. She's come a long way from that little girl that needed help so badly, that she needed someone to train her. And he's genuinely proud of her. Now back to the fight, she explains that fearing the unknown is important in a battle like this, so taking him out is most important. And if his hero name stands true, anything physical in terms of objects and stuff like that may become a problem. So Luna says that she'll target him with a howl and hopefully knock him either unconscious or put him out of the fight for the temporary moment. They all agree. So that's what Luna does. Luna stealthily goes around and then targets Mudman, howling, turning into her lunar form, and everyone hears the howl, but Mudman begins to scream, begins to freak out, saying that there's these weird things coming after him, and he runs off. Tetsu screams for him, saying that it's not real, but he's then met by a giant fire blast. Right as the fire dissipates, Luna can be seen in her lunar wolf form right behind it, smashing her, basically herself, into Tetsu, right into the ground, pile driving him and continuing to claw at him. Right after that, she jumps away and another fire blast goes right at Tetsu. Yes, fearing the unknown is important, but knowing your threats as well is just as much. They basically know what Pony and Spiral are good at. They relatively know what their quirks are, and they're not insanely that big of a threat. Ojiro is able to actually handle Spiral one-on-one pretty well, going head-to-head. And Shoji is basically able to fend off Pony for the moment. So Todoroki and Luna quickly are able to defeat Real Steel or Tetsu and throw him in jail while Luna carries him back and throws him in jail. Pony is then next to be eliminated, which Luna blindsides her without her actually realizing, because her fighting sense isn't exactly the best, but Luna can sense the entire battlefield. She waited for her to basically drop her guard as she was fighting Shoji, because she had him pinned to the wall. But this was a grave mistake, because Luna comes through and basically runs her over like a truck. Yeah, she's a giant wolf and she just ran into her, knocking Pony out. So now it's a 4 versus 2, and well, Mudman is kind of currently out of commission. Spiral notices that everything is beginning to go really south and tries to pick up the pace, but he's quickly defeated when Shoto freezes him, and they basically capture him as well. So 3 of the 4 of Class 1B are now captured, and they walk over to where Mudman is, and they see as he's basically walking around swatting at things midair and talking to himself, scared of something that isn't there. Luna snaps him out of it, and he basically reawakens in a way in the cage. Aizawa then announces that Class 1A wins the match in a 4-0 sweep. Azuku is very excited, so much so that he actually unconsciously runs over and hugs Luna, and everyone kind of makes fun of him for it, and they both kind of are embarrassed. But I mean, how embarrassed could you actually be when the entire internet thinks you're dating anyways? But that's it for another comment. So they basically all celebrate initially until basically Bakugo's match is then time to go. That match goes exactly the same. It has no reason to go any differently. So Bakugo and, well, Class 1A sweep in a 4-0 sweep. Now it's time for the main event. Everything everyone's been waiting for. I think even in the anime, and well, in the manga, if you read it at that time, everyone just wanted to see what was Deku going to do. Well, in this, it's a little different. Yes, it will be Deku, Mineta, Mina, Ochako, but this time, Class 1B will have the same team besides Shinso. Unfortunately, Shinso was not able to show what he had in the UA Sports Festival like he did in canon. But you can argue that he's just a couple steps behind his original counterpart. So he still has the potential of maybe going into the hero course in the future, but that UA Sports Festival was definitely a setback, if I say so myself. So now, let's begin the fight. Azuku begins sensing the entire battlefield, and he feels that it's now time to show off what he's made of. So he quickly senses where everybody is and goes. He heads over and transforms right in front of the 4 of them. They all stare at him, and their plan is simple. Maybe if Monoma can basically copy his quirk, he'll be able to use it. It doesn't seem like a power storing quirk by any means, so he might be able to actually transform into that wolf. Azuku growls but smirks, having complete control over the wolf form he's currently in. I know what you're thinking. I'll even let you tap my shoulder if you want to test your theory. Monoma thinks it's a trap, but Azuku says that it's not. He untransforms and even tells him he won't even transform. He can come over here and tap him on the shoulder. So they all four approach him, and Monoma does. Taps him on the shoulder, and they all back up. Monoma transforms into a wolf, but Azuku just smiles. Oh, so that's how your quirk works. Well, here's the thing. My quirk is called Alpha Wolf. But all those years ago, when the doctor told me about it, well, he said it wouldn't be like an alpha wolf unless I trained. Unless I personally made it my own. Monoma and the four of them are shocked at this relevant information that they didn't have. Now, I'll show you something that a true alpha only has. Azuku begins to transform. He goes into his alpha state, but continues to transform once again. His fur begins turning a charred black color, and he begins to glow off his fur as if he was on fire. He howls so loud that the whole area shakes like crazy, and all four of them stand in complete shock. They try to bail out, trying to maybe invoke another plan that they have in mind, but Azuku's on a whole different level. Azuku is far beyond any of these little games that any of these people would be able to put up. Any plan doesn't matter. Yes, brute strength isn't always the answer, but in Azuku's case, when you're 15 leaps ahead of people, it doesn't matter anymore. After transforming against Dolos, he realized that he was so strong, he personally was keeping himself in check. But now that he knows how to control this power, it's game over. Before he can actually attack though, this whole monologue was a setup. Mineta comes in throwing his sticky balls at everybody, trapping them. And basically Ochako pins down Yui instantly, basically cuffing her up and keeping her restrained. Monoma tries to turn and react, but Mina punches him in the face, and well, Azuku comes in and cleans up the rest. And they are announced the winners. Class 1A, just like in canon, wins on a 4-0 sweep. But this time, Azuku is extremely strong. Far stronger than he would ever have been in canon. They head back up, and Luna congratulates him, and they hug once again in excitement. And basically, Vlad King lectures his class, getting mad, saying that they should have done better, and that they will have homework for the rest of the week. They all sigh and awe about it, but that's just the way it goes. And that is also where our story ends.